G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL Fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Hef and I'm joined by the co-founding member, the original co-host, Kaes. Welcome back to the show, mate.
The OG, great to be on, my friend.
How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. I suppose a bit of a tale of two cities this weekend. Great, inspiring win by the Bombers and a catastrophic win by the Power. So, bad weekend to be a Power fan. I mean, Ken hater. They had muchness sometimes, but you know.
We can talk about that now if you really want to.
Yes, come on.
Well, what does it prove? You know, team that's 1-5 over the last 6 weeks. You know, actually, did you see on Twitter? Brandon Jack put out a napkin that basically says like how to beat Sydney's midfield. And since they've lost like 6 out of the last 7 or something like that out of the game. So maybe that was it. Maybe Ken's been got the
he's got the inside mail slash
because I think
napkin.
it was behind the paywall on one of those Code Sports things.
Right.
So I reckon Ken's actually got the subscription. But end of the day, my whole thing is I don't think our game plan stacks up when against teams that are running against their best. This doesn't not prove anything.
If the Dons aren't in the finals, I'm cheering for a Power flag just so you can
I would
apologise to Ken.
Yeah, I'll celebrate it. Like I'm still happy with the win.
Can you go down the club and maybe like make a banner or something?
We've already put signs up on Port Road.
I know you have, but like, I mean, like a positive one, not a get out of the town.
I'll do a public apology video on TikTok if you want. But yeah, like I'm happy with the win. Obviously, it's just I just don't see what changes. You know, at the same time, he's just sitting there doing nothing on the bench anyway. Like he's not really coaching.
He's inspiring the boys,
and that's what he's kind of good at. But is that worth paying $1 million a year? I think it's $800K a year for these days. Or
I'd be happy to get $800K a year.
Of course he would. But I'd pay you like $50 a game to go down and rev up the boys. That'd be great.
I would actually get the boys up and about.
Yeah. Nah, I don't know. Like it's a good win. I just still think come September when we still haven't copped the team that's humming and taken them down this year and for the last 5 years, to be honest. So, yeah.
It's tough to be a Ports boy when you beat the top team by 100 plus points, but like
I said,
I feel for you. My
still
heart
happy
bleeds.
Still happy with the win. I like the players, so I'm happy
bleeds.
they got the win,
My
obviously.
heart bleeds.
I just think we've got a dud coach, that's all. But wait and see what happens come finals, It's looking like, I did my ladder predictor actually, and it looks like we'll take on Brisbane week 1. How do you think that'll go down?
At home?
No, at the Gabba.
At Brisbane, at the Gabbatron.
Yeah.
The Gabbatoir.
Yeah.
Did they really beat up on St Kilda today?
Yeah, they did. And they beat up on us too.
St Kilda are a good team. They beat us convincingly last week. I reckon it'll be a good game.
What, you reckon Port will take down Brisbane up there? I reckon it would be an 80-point dropping up there.
God help me.
What's what happened last time? What's what happened with last time we played them?
Delusional. Anyway, it's all about the Bombers. We're going to run. We're going to make what's it called? A Bulldogs-like run to the finals.
Well, speaking of the Bombers, last time you were on the podcast, you put out I put out a TikTok of you that got probably 10,000 views online about you saying that your prediction was Essendon aren't going to make the 8 and will finish 10th. And it's kind of the oracle. It's really come to fruition, really.
Well, we were lucky to get the win today. Our kicking inside forward 50 is atrocious, so that needs to tidy up. But we've got Freo, Sydney and Brisbane to come. So Sydney and Brisbane away, I think. Or Brisbane's definitely away. So we need to win 2 of the last 3.
Is 10th still on the cards?
We're 9th currently, so we're half a game out the 8.
Yeah.
Oh, well, anything. Like any result can happen.
You finish. It's just all the people on the comments like you've got to be positive. There's no way we're finishing 10th from here.
God, that's why I'm the oracle. But I was really deep into the Olympics. I thought our season was over, so I've been reinvigorated today.
Well, there you go. Some positive. Your team has
going well, and the artistic gymnastics is still on, so it's a real win-win.
What a great weekend. Anyways, let's spin the game day squad wheel. We've got 3 more prizes to give away. Again, there's a link in the description below. Still not too late to enter. Just enter once. I've noticed there's so many people entering weekly. I delete multiple entries anyway.
So packs, man.
Just once, all right. But then enter. If I read your team name out, get in contact with me. on the socials, and I will send you the pack code. Here we go. Let's spin the wheel. Spinning. We had a few people like ask me, "Are you sure I'm on the wheel? Like it's not coming up?" But nah, he's come up.
Oh, Jack Rabbit.
Jack Rabbit's the winner this week. Well done, Jack Rabbit. Again, get in contact with me on the socials, and I'll send you the pack code. I might have to get you to confirm your email address or whatever, just to make sure it is you and you're not someone that's just saying you're the Jack Rabbits. But yeah, that'll do. Anyways, we'll get stuck into the show. We're recording on a Sunday night tonight. Had a few things that come up during the week that we had to do it tonight. But yeah, it's a pretty slapdash show, Doc. I'm not going to lie. Didn't get the thorough viewing that I would have done.
over?
Well, on a Monday, I would usually go over a few games and stuff like that. So hopefully it's still okay. I did manage to watch most of today's. I just had my niece's 18th yesterday, so I didn't watch any football. But anyway, let's go with the Western Bulldogs versus Melbourne game. Caleb Poulter had 112 points. He's an interesting one because do you remember back his first season at Collingwood? So outside type, plays on a wing and put up really good fantasy scores in his first year. Then got delisted after his second year. And I remember tweeting saying that there's got to be more to the story. And Collingwood supporters tweeting me just, nah, he's shit. Like that's the sole reason. But gets picked up again, playing in a side that's going to play finals. I don't know. Would you think Caleb Poulter's got a future ahead of him?
Potentially. Like he'd been playing some pretty good VFL football to get back in that side, but like looking at the results on the weekend from the twos, like a guy like Oscar Baker, who was kind of the flavour of the month, last year or early in the season, he's really been playing well when McRae went back, and so they've got a lot of those outside types who are playing really well. But as we know with the Bulldogs, it's whether Bevo likes you that week or not, whether you've got the role. So there's always a bit of risk, and especially being that wingman type. I like him as a player, but like if we're getting to the end of the year where, like he's starting blokes to win a flag or you're looking towards your keepers, I think he's a risky starter and I don't think he's necessarily at that keeper level yet.
He's the type of player I would take like very late in a draft and then hopefully you can get a few streamable games out of him, but not someone I'm really kind of banking on a future for. Just you mentioned there, Jack McRae, 143 points in the Magoos. Be nice if he got a game again for us owners out there.
No, it wouldn't be. Keep him in the twos, Bevo.
I feel like he's going to get traded at the end of the year.
And hopefully Hefter lists him and I pick him back up.
Absolutely. If he's traded, he's staying in my side. Jake Bowie had 93 points. Now, he's a player that's had some pretty tough luck, but there's a few circumstances on the halfback line that suit him at the moment, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Obviously, Trent Rivers going into the middle has been massive for him, Salem injured. But, if you look at from a streamer point of view, like he might have been really lowly owned, a month or so ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's probably averaging maybe 80 or something in his last three, I reckon. He's gone on a really good tear. So seems to be picking it up and picking up that slack across halfback while they've put my boy Trent Rivers into the guts, which has been great as a Rivers owner. But positive signs for Bowie. It's interesting, to see what next year might look like, with the full complement back and Petrarca back and,
What about the rumour of Dan Houston going to Melbourne, which I think's growing legs, to be honest.
I walked past Dan Houston at the beach yesterday.
What are your thoughts? Did you ask me about
he's
a trade?
quite tall.
Yeah, he is.
He looked really comfortable.
Happy in Adelaide, you reckon?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm like, as a Port supporter, kind of going away from fantasy, like I think trading him is probably a good idea because we just don't have any first round draft picks for the next few years.
And you've got good guys coming on like, Mead and Burgoyne. They've kind of taken the next step. Farrell across halfback with his leg.
I feel like the halfback flankers, like you can easily replace them with the halfback kind of types. Yes, he does have a good boot
and you've got the
like
best midfielder in the comp.
We do have the best midfield in the comp. Yes, in general.
I think we just need a ruckman.
Yeah, and a coach who can coach it. But anyway, Tom
Goodness
Sparrow
me.
is the other one. Well, that's the thing. Like everyone tells us, like we don't have the cattle. Is our group chat's mantra.
We've got great cattle.
I know, but that's what everyone kind of. And Kane Corns, whenever Ken Hinkley goes bad, he goes, "Oh, it's not Ken's fault. He doesn't have the team. Doesn't have the team around him." That's what
Embarrassment of riches down there at Alberton.
That's what we're told by the media. Let alone the 8 All-Australians, 8 first-round draft picks. All that sort of stuff. Brownlow medalist.
Listeners out there, you don't want to see the group chat when Hef gets fired up.
I know. I don't know if I'm getting stirred up. Or
I think you're playing a bit at the moment.
If you guys
like
legit
the infuriated Port supporter.
If you guys legit think beating Sydney was that fantastic, but anyway,
We'll find out if we beat them in 2 weeks' time or not.
Oh, yeah. We'll wait till finals. That's all you need to worry about. Tom Sparrow, 83 points. I think he just might have a point to prove after getting dropped last week. Big game in the twos.
He did.
I'd be streaming him this week if I think they come up against Port, which is probably a bad matchup for mid forward. But I think he's just going to get some opportunities now in the back end of the season with Melbourne's season all but done, pretty much. So
time to roll the dice, and you've seen them, experiment with Rivers in there, and he's another one who can go in there and definitely play a role.
Yeah, stream over the next few weeks if you're a Sparrow owner. Onto the West Coast game, Jack Darling turned back the clock. I don't think he'd be anyone to get excited about in the keep league, though, is he?
He had 20 odd touches, didn't he?
And I don't know if he kicked a goal. Did he kick one goal? I can't remember.
But he definitely had a shot at goal when I was watching.
Yeah, I don't think it was a huge kind of scoring goal kicking game either, which was kind of ridiculous. So that means he's probably playing a bit further up the ground. Take a few mark. 1 goal, 1 he had. So playing
22
a bit further
touches, 7 tackles.
Yeah, that helps.
He wouldn't have done that for years.
Yeah, no, I'm not buying into it though. Tip of the cap for mine. Yeah. Bailey Williams. This is Bailey J. Williams, obviously. 82 points. I think he's been pretty good under Schofield, and they're keeping Matt Flynn in the twos by the looks.
He played the second game in the twos yesterday, maybe even third. I can't remember.
So a ruck streamer there potentially if you've got him on your list. And the other one, Clay Hall had his first game. He was a big preseason hype kind of player. I think he went pretty high in a lot of drafts and stuff like that because from memory he had a good underage average, but played across the halfback in this game. I know preseason he was playing in the midfield and got tackled or concussed by his own teammates or something, and then had some other type of step back. But yeah, just good to see him get a game. Be great to see him get a full one.
I think the last kind of 3 weeks for West Coast is going to be interesting as well. See what Schofield does with a few of these guys that haven't had heaps of opportunity. What was his name? Zane True kicked the goal. Not that he had heaps of the footy, but someone like that who's been playing pretty well in the waffle for the last year or two. Yeah, can one of these guys kind of either not necessarily cement a spot in the team next year, or just show a bit that might get some fantasy coaches excited heading into the back end of a draft next year.
Yeah, I think just with West Coast though, each week you've got Duggan, Yo, Tim Kelly, maybe Witherden every now and then. Those types will get you around that 80 to 100 mark, and everyone else is just under that. So I don't know. No one ever seems to pop in that side because they don't have enough of the footy.
No, it's true.
I wouldn't be streaming any of them.
No, definitely not streaming. Yeah. I'm more. Black booking would be the
for the future. Okay, I get you. Yeah. Onto the North Melbourne versus Richmond game. There was not a lot to take out of this one. Was texting my mate Fridge, who's now a North Melbourne supporter because his brother is a coach there. But I didn't see this game, but he reckons North Melbourne could delist 18 players. He reckons
and they still beat Richmond.
And they still beat Richmond on the back of this performance. But he'd like to get rid of about 18 of them. He said. But
Fridge is a harsh critic.
He's a very harsh critic. It's quite funny when he sent me a screenshot of North Melbourne's list with X's in lines through all these players' names. But look, Tom Powell's a big one you need to talk about. 116 points. I had a halfback role for the last 2 weeks and went back this week. But how much of this do you think is Richmond factor? Because listen to this. This is their defensive players for the weekend. So Stevenson, another one, 99 points. Yep. Archer, 99 points. Kobe McKercher, 97 points. The big Chom had 87 points. Yep. McDonald had 86 points. Darcy Tucker, 85 points. Every defender went 80 plus. So last week we were talking about how does Tom Powell go with McKercher back in the side, and I don't know if we can. I think it's probably less than this if they're not playing Richmond. What do you think?
Do we have some CBA numbers for Tom Powell?
I don't know. I can probably find them. Yeah, just give me 2 seconds.
So look, he's had a good couple of weeks, I think. So
he actually had 37%. So he got quite a few in there as well. But yeah, he was playing across that halfback line as well when he wasn't in there.
Yeah. So I still got faith in Tom Powell. Was that underage scorer that we were pretty keen on in his draft year. Definitely a bit of a bump, but no Wardlaw in there at the moment. Does that, help his kind of scoring potential? But at the same time, they're throwing guys Will Phillips and, Jai Simpkins still rolling through there. Dylan Stevens. So there's still guys who can play in there. Yeah. And he's still winning his fair share of the pill. So
that's interesting. I think Powell might not even been playing defence. I didn't see this game, obviously, but he might not have been playing in there by it looks. So yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know.
It's probably Richmond factor more than anything. So
Richmond is so trash.
Yeah, absolutely. Onto the Geelong versus Adelaide game. Another one I missed, but it looked like a pretty good one. 5 points.
It was. I watched the second half of this game.
Oh, sweet, you can talk about it then. Yeah. Tanner Bruhn, 104 points. I think we've 2G4P'd him already just purely because of the opportunity he was getting. you still think he's probably the future of that midfield?
Yeah, I was thinking about that after glancing the show doc over dinner. Obviously, it's hard to say that, Geelong are going to be on a decline or anything like that in the next few years because they just keep topping up so nicely. But, you're going to go to wonder how long, guys like Dangerfield or Duncan.
Yeah.
Cam Guthrie's been really injured this year. Tom Atkins is no spring chicken. Like, I think he's the next one that's ready to go into that position. And then, guys like Manor and a couple others, Nevitt and stuff like that, who are playing good VFL. But Bruin, I feel this year has had a really stop-start. Like, I reckon he was, this year he's potentially on the bubble at the start of the year, having a bit of a breakout.
Yeah.
Started all right, got injured, came back okay, got injured again, and now it's taken a few games for him to kind of hit his straps again. But I do really like his potential.
I don't necessarily think Geelong are going to fall away. They're the type of that top-up team that will just stay around the mark. And, they got the flag in, 2022, was it?
It was a COVID year.
2021 was Melbourne, so it must have been 2022.
Yeah.
But yeah, I reckon this is probably controversial, but I reckon they kind of got it just on the back of everyone else being shit more so than them being good. Point is, Geelong just kind of hang around for so long. And
they're never bottoming out.
They're just going to be there, around the mark, and and hopefully they can jag one here and there. And so I think, despite you want them to bottom out, I still think Tanner Bruhn is going to be a kind of prevalent part of the midfield and whatever happens over the next 8 years. So
if you're going to pencil one Geelong midfielder in, it would definitely be him.
Yeah. Tyson Steen, we'll tip the cap to him. 89 points, pretty good return considering the week he had, being in an ambulance earlier in the week. But he's had back-to-back good scores as well, so might just have a bit of a point to prove there. Who do they have this week? I'm just wondering if it's a streamable matchup.
Well, the Cats have good options because I think people were talking about Cameron being a good streaming option going forward for the rest of the year.
Yeah, might be. I don't know. I can't remember who that is. But if it looks like a favourable match, I definitely wouldn't be against putting Stengel on the field as a forward if you need one. And speaking of forwards, Sean Manor had 72 points. He's just a serviceable forward right now. Being a mature age player, do you see him as a long-term option, or is it more of just a stopgap?
No, I think he's one of those guys that almost like your Tom Stewart-esque, have come in. They've identified as a player who can be really, really serviceable for X number of years. And as you're saying, they never bottom out. So it's getting to the point where he's at 26 is probably in a way in the prime of his career.
Yeah.
And Geelong are going really well. So to break in there, play that kind of mid-forward role and do it really well over the last couple of months is really, really good.
Geelong have Fremantle next week, but then they've got St Kilda, and then they have West Coast. So that could be a few juicy matchups for that Stengel stream if you needed to there as well, because he's performing pretty well at the moment. Onto the Crows side of things. Josh Rochelle, 101 points.
Yep.
I was shocked to realise this, but that was the first ton of this season.
I've got him in one of my leagues, and he's had an absolute stinker. I don't think I've fielded him for the last 4 or 6 weeks. He's been a 50-odd average player for most of this year, 50, 60.
How many do you keep in that league?
That's just a single season draft where you're only playing four forwards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think I went reasonably early on him, in retrospect. And it's obviously not been a good move until the weekend when I didn't have him on my field. But he was actually really impressive on the weekend. Still only had the 14 touches, kicked 3 goals too, but just looked a bit more on and he's been a bit up and down this season, but I was really impressed. He kind of had a bit of focus back. So hopefully he can finish off the year well, a good pre-season, and pull his finger out and become the player I think we know he can be next year.
If he was in our league with 12 keepers, right, I don't think he'd make my keepers next year, despite all the potential and all that sort of stuff.
We've got lots of Crows coaches in our league.
I think the guy who owns him is pretty garbage as well, so he'll definitely make keepers there.
Look, if you're going on statistics alone, I doubt he would, even as bad as that coach's team is, I don't even think he'd be in his top 12 players.
Yeah,
so
you'd keep it on future potential.
Well, yeah, and then forward status, it obviously depends on what happens next year with all of that. But I think he's a guy that you'd want to see something soon from a fantasy point of view, because I think he could be a bit of a tease for another year or two.
Yeah.
And, unless he can kind of have a bit more of a genuine effort through the midfield, it's going to be hard to see him, be a long-term keeper.
Yeah, 100% agree, which is kind of shocking, really, because given that they need to probably do some different things in their midfield, I guess he's too valuable up forward. But yeah, it's a bit of a watch for Josh Rochelle. Riley Thilthorpe's the other one, 92 points, 3 goals. I don't think they played Tex on the weekend, which is probably a good option.
They did play Tex.
Did he
just didn't touch the ball?
Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I think they need to not play Tex and just kind of rely on him and Fogarty because they're the future of the club anyway. But yeah, he also did a bit of backup ruck as well. So I don't know, like he looks like a forward these days. Like he looks like a dominant key forward.
Huge.
Yeah, and I think with that backup ruck time, like he's every chance of being like a Joe Danaher type scorer if everything goes his way.
Yeah, it'd be nice
Not
to
the
see him
same
get
type
some
of
ruck
player,
forward
but-
status too.
yeah.
That would be real juicy.
Yeah.
You did call him to be the Crows' #1 ruck this year, didn't you?
That was before he just put on like 20 kilos and looked like a monster. Like,
Looks like he eats children.
yeah,
he's
like I am off that that
Popeye.
bandwagon. Like he needs to be sitting in front of the goals, just eating everything that comes come his way.
Some crazy subs in this game.
Yeah.
Jack Bowes and Daniel Curtin were both the subs.
Yeah, right.
They both played 6 and 19% TOG.
I'm not shocked by that. Like Bose is like always like as soon as he thinks his side is going good, he'll be the sub. And Geelong kind of do that with their just rotate players that way.
Bowes has had a really good, last 4 or 6 weeks too. So it was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting.
On to the Collingwood versus Carlton game. Looked like a bit of a close one towards the.
It was a good game. I watched most of this one.
Yeah.
Have you got anyone on the show, Doc?
Well, I've got Will Hoskin-Elliott in there, 102 points. I watched the KO mini on this one. Seemed like he was just in the right place a lot of the time. Just, inside 50, he was kind of the streaming back in and got the end of a few marks.
Yeah,
and
he
things
took
like
a
that.
couple really tidy marks up forward too.
Yeah.
Real sticky hands, and he's a good shot in front of goal. But
Yeah.
he's a guy that you really just can't rely on. Like
Yeah.
it'll be one of these weeks, and then next week it'll be a 50 or something like that. So it's really hard to even stream. But if the matchup's right, potentially have a look at it.
Yeah. The other one is Jeremy Howe playing back in defence, I think.
Yep.
So 95 points. I still probably wouldn't field him too often, but much better playing in defence. And Brody Kemp had his tri-weekly 80-plus score, which we always talk about on this podcast. So you can bank him once every 3 weeks to go 80-plus. So
Yep, that sounds about right.
Good on him for that. Ollie Hollands, 79 points. Do you reckon he can make the leap as like an outside type and be a...
I still want to see a bit more body size from him.
Yeah, he
like
looks
if you
so
look
skinny.
at him compared to his brother,
Yeah.
I think Elijah
2G for the podcast.
Elijah.
Yeah, Elijah is.
And a keeper for the chops too.
Yeah,
that was a lucky one. Hopefully he even gets a bit more mid time with old mate Chera out for a while too. But
that was a question. Who do you reckon replaces Chera with the hamstring? Does Jack Carroll come back in, or do you think they use Hollands in there more?
Interested to see if they actually give Jackson Binns a go, who has been playing really good VFL footy.
Well, I guess
Jack Carroll's another one.
They have been throwing Chera around a bit. Like I think they played him in defence, played him up forward.
Chera's
for a
also
bit.
missed a fair bit of footy this year too.
Yeah.
So, which has probably helped where Hollands kind of initially got that bump from being a bit more forward.
Which
to
Hollands you talking about now?
Elijah, I should say. But getting back to Ollie, I just think he was really impressive in patches on Saturday night.
He always looks around the mark,
Yeah, I just think he needs to put in that little bit more size, and then he's going to make it to that next level. But he's got talent, and I think Elijah, for example, was just kind of showing, why he was drafted so early, 4 or 5 years ago. Finally got his body right, and playing some good footy in a good team.
Before we get into the gold members break, we should probably give people a bit of an update on our Keeper League, home league at the moment.
Should we?
Well, it's not really, but I just want to have a bit of a whinge about my team here.
What's happened to your team?
Nah, it's going fine. I've come against the top
everyone,
team.
he's second or something like that, and he's still upset. He's like,
No,
he's so much success in this world, and he's still whinging.
I dropped out of second after this week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Things
I
you like to hear.
needed to beat the top team, and I lost by about 60 odd points, I think. And I had 2 players subbed out of games this week. So
ouch.
Yeah, no good. That would have been the double chance. So my luck in knockout finals is atrocious.
Here we go.
So
you're playing Tom this week.
Am I?
Oh no, you're playing.
Nah.
You're playing Pig.
Yeah.
All right.
So I could go right, and then the Topokes are playing. Yeah. So anyway, I think I've got the better run because if I do win, I don't think I face Shakes until the grand final. The top team.
I think that's right from how I can see it.
Yeah. So, but still, like, I'm not confident on anything going forward. I just get the worst luck when it comes to finals. So, yeah, seems to be the way. But then in my home league, where I was on a bit of a tear, my dynasty league. So I finished 5th and was running the table. This week, I scored, I think it was 1780, I think. Just let me open this page. How's this for a bad beat? I was playing the guy who finished top, so I guess that does something. But look, here we go. I finished, where's the matchup fixtures? Here. Oh, it's already open for last week. Damn. No, there we go. There we go. Scored 1755 and lost 1840.
You would have beaten each other. I know that's consolation.
Yeah, but still, it would
That hurts.
Well, there's the
Are
other
you
teams. Yeah, now I'm out.
Oh, no.
There's the other team score, so would have beaten 1720. Wouldn't have beaten that guy, but it's a crazy weekend where I thought I was home, had the Whitfield captain, crazy. But anyway, and then I lost to Shiva as well in the final round too to finish third or fourth in that one too. So bad week.
Well, shout out to the Cubs who won their first game in a million years and avoided the spoon in our league.
Anyways, no one cares about our league, so let's move on. Thank you to the following gold members. I think I repeated some gold members last week, so this is the actual getting to the bottom of the list here. So thank you to Daniel Tomlins, Derek Yang, Nathan Jacques, Jaden O'Brien, Ryan Gershwitz, Aidan McAllister, Lennon Berman, Adam Orlando, Samuel Tempera, Jared Minchin, Giuseppe Constanzo, McLovin, Dave Smith, Marcus Lavender, and Ben Farley. Ryan Gershwitz sounds like one of my alter egos.
He definitely does.
With my real name is. But anyway, let's keep going on with the round review. Match of the round, Sydney versus Port Adelaide. 100-point win. I think we've talked about this one enough, but we'll talk about some of the players involved. Miss Georgiades automatically qualifies for Too Good for the podcast. What are your thoughts on him?
I really like him. I think it's great to see him finally kind of hit his straps coming back from that knee. Always was a big fan. I always thought he was much better than Marshall, and it's definitely displaying that at the moment. Is Marshall injured?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, but he's been having a better year.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I really like him. I've got him in a couple of single season leagues. It's just kind of like a F4, F5, and he's been really serviceable because he hasn't actually put in too many bad games.
The thing is, he's kicking like 4 goals at least every week. Like, how long does that last for? I guess against Melbourne it could happen again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think then who have we got to finish off? Fremantle's one of them, and there's another tricky one in there. But anyway, the Showdown. Showdown's always tricky.
Can I ask you a few questions about some Port guys?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So if you're talking about like maybe a 15 or 16 team keeper next year, would you be keeping Kane Farrell?
Yeah, 16, that range. Like, he's good for a 90 every second or third week.
You'd obviously keep a Jace Burgoyne.
Yeah, I'm less sold on Burgoyne given that he'll be a mid only next year because I don't know. I just don't see where his scoring improves that much. That's all. Like, he's more valuable as a defender.
Yeah,
but maybe not.
So he's going to lose the defender status for sure.
Not for sure, but I think it's pretty close.
What about Jackson Mead? Yeah,
that's the other one. So 70 average forward. If you're keeping 16, you could probably make a case for it. But like in our league, for example, like I don't know, in so many leagues I've seen this year, people were like kept forwards that they probably didn't need to keep because everyone picked up 70 average guys in the draft. Like I picked up Brent Daniels like pretty late as well.
He's been fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Been just as good as most.
Or better. Like he's probably pushing top 5, top 10 range type thing. You never know. You're more likely to get one of those guys than I think a Jackson Mead because like I think Jackson Mead is so far down the pecking order in Port's midfield mix, and like the only guy I could see him replacing in the next few years is like Ollie Wines, but he's still waiting 3 or 4 years, and he's only ever going to be the 4th banana, probably 5th because Willem Drew's going to be in there. He's vice captain essentially, so it's a tricky one. Like I see his scoring like this is his breakout year, you know what I mean, and it's still like a 70 average type thing, but so he had 77 points on the weekend. He has had 5 weeks of 70 plus scores though, so I think if you've got him in your team, you shouldn't be too like discouraged by him. It's hard to keep a player like that. That's all.
Yeah. It's as we kind of said, it will depend on how many keepers you take each year.
And then Willie Rioli was the only other one in that game who kicked 4 goals and tipped the cap there.
Good to see Jake Lloyd only had 61 too.
Yeah, he's cooked. I wrote a song about him. Didn't you hear it?
Yeah, I did hear it.
I've admitted that ages ago.
Can you answer a question for me, which I haven't seen much of Sydney in the last few weeks? What's with Matthew Roberts? blast up the scoring charts.
Yeah, just sitting on that halfback line, kind of just doing what he was earlier in the season. And I think like Blakey's probably been a little bit more accountable since Rampy's been out, which has kind of let him just get a few more kicks and stuff like that. Jake Lloyd just plays further up the ground now. He's just the guy back there that does get those kicks and those kind of rebounding balls and in a bit of a chip around. And he only got 5 marks this week, but
which we love.
That sort of stuff as well. So I think more Rampy being out, Blakey being more accountable. And yeah, that seems to always happen when Rampy is out. Onto the GWS versus Hawthorn game today. This was actually, there's a lot of ripper games today, except for the last one. But Darcy Jones, I traded him to you a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Did you know much about him? Because he was kind of steak knives.
I knew he had a helmet. That's about all I knew.
98 points. So he was forward for most of the game like usual, but then went into the midfield late in the game. And like I picked him up in our draft, and I picked him up pretty late. And like he's one of those picks that like you pick up and you go, oh yeah, this guy's like so well known. You know, like because he's been talked about so much, or maybe he didn't have, maybe he just rolled into the midfield, maybe not CBAs, but it looked like he was playing the midfield at the end of the game. But anyway, yeah, one of those players that I picked up just because I heard the name and I'd heard so much hype. And then when I picked him, I was like, he's a fucking small forward. What am I doing?
He looks like a little whippet.
Yeah, like why am I picking him up? Just because I picked him up on hype, and it's just one of those instant regrets after you make the pick. But then, yeah, you know, he does a few things further up the ground this week, and I don't know, he just looks way too small to be anything good. But I said the same about Toby Bedford initially as well. So I know he's tagging, but yeah. James Peatling had 97 points. We still don't really have any answers until Stephen Cornelio comes back with him, but I think he's playing too well to drop at the moment. So I'd be happy to have him in. Like, I'd be happy that he plays. I'd just be concerned with Cornelio coming back. I think there's a question about him later, so we might leave that one and come back to it at the questions. Onto your boys having a ripper win today.
Yes.
Jake Stringer, 92 points. Has he got that new contract yet?
No.
Okay.
So he's still playing for it. But he only had 8 touches but kicked 4 goals, 10 tackles. So that's what we need from the package up forward.
It was him and Luke Ryan just wrestling all day.
Yeah. It's nice that we played Luke Ryan back into fantasy form, which is good.
Yeah, I traded him in Classic this week as well.
I traded him out for Whitfield, but so at least I've made a little bit of money. But
I traded him out for the fucking Bulldogs redhead. What's his name?
Ed Richards.
Yeah, Ed Richards scored 80.
Sweet.
But I did use the money to upgrade English to Marshall, so probably par. Ended up going 2,400 plus and losing as well, so fuck that.
Ouch.
But yeah, so Jake Stringer, expecting to have a few big weeks if he's playing for a contract, I think. It could be a streaming option.
It could be. When we're playing Gold Coast at home next week, which we know they don't like to win away from Gold Coast. So.
And Dimmer hasn't won at Marvel Stadium for like a billion games.
He hates Marvel Stadium.
So that's probably a win there with Jake Stringer kicking another bag of 4. So stream this weekend.
Please.
Sam Draper, surely we're 2G 4Ping him now.
Yeah, it's interesting though. He's so inconsistent. Like watching him, I mean, he's so inconsistent.
But like without Goldstein, he's been good pretty much every week. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and you know, it still worked with Nick Bryan in there this week, kind of going against Big Sean Darcy in the middle. So. Yeah, interesting to see what happens with Sam Draper.
Yeah,
I think
they played Brian this week, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
so that, like he's playing 2 dual rucks, even he's scoring fine.
Correct. And my thing is like if you go back to like the whole, you know, like say we're in a 12 keeper league, for example.
Yeah,
I don't reckon that Sam Draper's a keeper. If he's only ruck if he's only ruck next year, like he doesn't have the ruck forward, like. There's going to be 12 people, I think, or 12 ruckmen who would be better be kept over him. And if it's back into the pool, like I think someone like Lloyd Meek is a better option than Sam Draper.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, Lloyd Meek's a gun. Yeah, and he's going to be rucking solo.
I think he's fine, and yes, he might be 2G for P technically, but at the same time, I don't have any...
Yeah, I'm more so just that everyone's owning him. He's not on waiver wires, all that sort of shit, so there's no point having him there. But like, looking at he's averaging 58% centre bounce tendencies for the year. And then if he was to have the 35% forward, he'd need to be averaging, you know, over 80% time on ground, which isn't happening. So he's probably not keeping that forward status for next year either.
So I just don't know from that point of view whether he's, you know, that valuable commodity.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But yeah, like I said, he's going to be off every waiver wire this season, so there's no point bringing him up each week. Your boy Archie Roberts, tell me about him. Do you know much about him?
He had a really, really good month in the VFL before coming in, and
sense.
that was with you know, guys like Sardis and Hobbs and Even Setterfield playing really well, and they took the punt on Roberts. He was, I thought he was really composed and poised today.
Is it like he's on the wing?
Kind of on the wing, yeah. A little bit of half back, half forward, that kind of, outer role.
Yeah.
Still only slightly built, so I think there's a lot of improvement there. But I was just, in a team where we can kind of made some really bad decisions at times, especially with, ball in hand, especially off the leg. I thought he looked really good and had a bit of composure, so I'm really rapt for him getting that game, and I think there's a bit of something to look forward to him next year from a fantasy point of view.
I think he's definitely going to be a trading target for your classic formats, but one to look at for your draft and your keeper leagues next season, I think, keeper leagues specifically, because put up an 80 in your first game, playing a midfield role. That's got to show something. St Kilda versus Brisbane, this piece of shit game to finish off the round. We've 2G 4P Mateus Philippou. Do you think?
We should have 2G for Peter when he, turned up, coming back into the side.
Well, I think because he had back-to-back 80s and then you have to do the third one, and then I don't think he did it.
Because he got injured, didn't he?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, too good for the podcast right now. Does he stay at St Kilda? Isn't there talk of him coming back to SA?
Maybe, but then I think it's going to be interesting because I think maybe Ross gave him a bit of tough love.
Yeah, same.
So it's just like, you go back, you got to earn your stripes. And
and he's done.
To his credit, he actually played some really good VFL footy and has come back and basically got close to a ton in most of his games since coming back to the AFL. So probably helps when you get played in your natural position too as a midfielder. And, that's what we see a lot with some of these younger kids where, they kind of get stuck on a half forward flank, and it's only until they get that chance to play in the midfield, which he showed in the VFL, and he's, well and truly shown he's got what it takes.
Josh Battle had 92 points. He's playing for a big contract at the moment, apparently.
To go to Hawthorn?
Yeah, and then they're going to get you're going to get a first, St Kilda are going to get first round draft pick compensation for Josh Battle. Some bullshit. But anyway, took a heap of marks over the ground. Absolutely buried me in that keeper league game, dynasty league game I was talking about. So fuck you, Josh Battle. Tim Membry had 76 points. Is he back to the Tim Membry of old? He was always the guy that could get you 70 back in the day. What do you think?
Well, he's done that from one goal, 13 touches, so it's every chance.
That was the Tim Membry of old, like when I used to own him, and he helped me out.
There's plenty of key forwards who can do that, most weeks.
The thing is, like, Max King, I think, makes him more of a focus for them, and I think that's been helping him.
Yep.
And I don't think St Kilda plan to not play with Max King long term. So there's always that, and I think his best days are obviously behind him a little bit as well. But for the remainder of the season, he's definitely like a waiver wire option, like in the Shiva or something like that. If he's still available there, he's someone to be happily putting on the forward, because it's tough to find good forwards there. So one to think about. Onto the Brisbane side of things, Kai Lohman had 94 points, started forward, but then kind of rolled into that midfield just from the stoppage as well. I don't usually like his forward roles, but he's the kind of player that has a bit of flair.
I like him. He's got some flair.
Yeah.
Got some speed.
Yeah. Bit of attitude.
He's got something about him. Yeah, I like
it's kind of like Ollie Dempsey, where I didn't like him as his role, what the type of player that he is, but just given the talent that he is, it makes him kind of more conducive to scoring. And I think Kyle Lohman's a bit similar, type that.
And speaking of, someone like Cam Rayner has had a hell of a last month.
We 2G'd him last week.
Yeah, but same kind of guy. He's got that little bit of flair. It's just good to see him finally piece, a bit of that together over the last month.
It's just being a mature player now and just being confident that you can beat anyone that you play on type thing.
And even Rayner necessarily not hitting those, he's never going to be an 100 average kind of player. But I think next year, from my point of view, he goes into that year being a really safe forward,
whereas top 5 almost.
At the start of the year, you'd be like, you'd stream him, he might have an 80, he might have a 50, whereas it looks like he's got everything together the last month, and it's really good to have another.
The coaches that have held on, I've had him I had him 2 or 3 years in a row and put him back, and the coaches that have held him are the ones really being rewarded right now. So hats off to them. Jasper Fletcher, another one, 91 points, plays on the wing. It was a bit of a weird game. Bonner went down with an injury. Zach Jones was starting on the wing, but then would just play as another mid. Ryan Burns was out late, so he just didn't really have a direct winger matchup that could go with him all day. So Jasper Fletcher, good good score, but I'd want to see him just back it up a little bit more. And I guess we'll tip the cap to Callum Archie as well. He kicked 2 goals, and probably Zach Bailey as well. Played him on the wing a little bit, but he kind of does that. I think he kicked 3 goals in the last quarter.
I'd love for him to be that player too, where he can just lock in.
I just don't know.
He's a flirt.
I don't know if he's going to be, but we've talked about him way too many times over the last few years.
Yes.
And that's the end of the round rewind. Bit of a nothing round, not a lot of new players rearing their heads, kind of guys we've talked about quite often. And
It's just some young blood thrown in the last
hopefully
few
we
weeks.
can get something a bit more interesting over the last few rounds. But thank you to the last few gold members. And once again, this is a member-supported podcast. And without members signing up and supporting the show, it doesn't exist. So thank you heaps. And I think this is the last lot of gold members to actually read out for the year. So
Fantastic.
Thank you to Ryan Basley, Odie O'Donnell, Reese Gurnon, Xavier Munro, Nick Davis, Dan Letho, Vincent Moxie, Tyson Soulsby, Nate Brook, Matt Dodman, Ben Mitchell, and Jason McMahon. Again, big thank you to the members who keep this podcast going, because it definitely would have been done by now if you guys weren't sticking around supporting the show. If there's anyone I've missed, like, I'm really bad at my record keeping is not the greatest for who I've read out and who I haven't read out. Like, I guess it's got a spreadsheet with lines through it, but
man.
have been prone to miss a few. So previously I've had people call like, yeah, you missed my name, and then I'd go back and I'm like, oh cool, yeah, at round 12. And I was like, oh yeah, sorry, I missed it, type thing. That happens a bit, but if you think you've been missed out, you've been listening each week and you haven't heard it, let me know and I'll call it out on the podcast. But put the question tweet out earlier today, but didn't get too many, seeing it was down pretty late. But got a few ones. B Nickel 17 wants to know, is Liam Duggan in any strife of becoming a mid only next season? I did look at the CBA.
I test gut feel would be yes.
Yeah, I think he's had a lot of zero CBA games. He's only averaging 15% for the entire year. So I think the last few weeks he's had big, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Like, even if he continues over the last few weeks, I don't think it's going to be enough to like keep him there. So I think he does keep defender status for at least one more year. Going to be interesting to see what a new coach does.
New coach, and if they actually do go hard in the trade period, like suggested, who do they bring in, and what does that do to their midfield mix? Yeah,
so he could spend more time in the next year. Like, I wouldn't bank on it, super safe for the future, but I think he's at least got one more year, so should be right there. Jordox 2020, thoughts on Peatling's role and output once Cogs returns. When Cogs came back against, I think it was the Crows, he played pretty much forward exclusively the whole game. I think he might do that for the rest of the season, Cogs, just to get him through.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Yeah.
Because you want guys like that playing in September, even if they're not necessarily fully flying.
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of the thing that's happened with Essendon in a way. Like, we saw Caldwell and Durham and all that, like, start to, grow into their own, and then Parrish has come back, and it's not like he's been super prevalent and dominate or taking all of their opportunity away. So, I think Kingsley and that would be very much aware that they're onto a bit of a winner with what Peatling's doing in their midfield at the moment. So it might be diminished, but it might not necessarily be gone completely.
They have 3 really tough matches to finish off the season, though. That's the thing. So, like, my thinking was if they had a few cruising matches, they might just hide him forward and get him through and get that match fitness in. But Brisbane next week, then the Dockers, then Western Bulldogs. Like, that's potentially 3 losses there.
That is rough. Lucky they won today.
Yeah, so they might not. They might just use him, and they might have to use Cornelio a bit more. So watch this space on that one. What I would do, I'd play him forward at least for a week. And so Peatling should be good again. But then if he gets through that pretty well, then maybe it does diminish his role after next week. But yeah. Ninja Spoon 1 wants to know which Port players benefit for Ken Hinkley getting another contract extension. I think
Charlie Dixon, Todd Marshall.
Charlie Dixon and Ken have the same manager, so that's why Dixon always supports him in the media. Todd Marshall apparently dates his daughter. Is that the rumour?
No idea.
Yeah, apparently that's the rumour.
You'd be all in deep into this stuff.
Well, no, that's what, like, everyone bashes Todd Marshall, and all the Port supporters bash Todd Marshall. Like, I think he'd be a better player if we didn't just kick it on his head and let him lead.
Todd Marshall was incredibly serviceable, and I would be more than happy for him to be in our forward line.
Port supporters bash. It's like we play a bomb on head game plan. It doesn't suit him. Like, that's why he's shit. But anyway, those 2 would be the one there, Ninja Spoon. But I know that's a joke answer, and we answer it really seriously. But the joke question. But anyway,
it's true.
It's that time of the night. We've wrapped this up in under 45 minutes, Kaes. That's pretty good. This time of the year, it's hard to actually find things to talk about. So we got it there. Any state league performers catch your eye over the weekend?
Yes, obviously Jack McRae had one. What do you have? 143. My boy Jared Lyons 155.
I was going to say, you're still talking about Jared Lyons, holding on to hope that he comes back.
Holding on to hope. Well, not that he's no good to me anymore. That my season's over. But
Finn McGuinness had 150. What's he
did 151 for Finn McGuinness. 2 goals, 32 touches. As I said, Oscar Baker. 135. Riley Sanders, good signs. 39 touches and 3 goals.
What do you reckon happens with Dev Robinson next year?
He's
still
going.
Scoring,
yeah.
okay.
He's had a mammoth probably last 2 months.
Yeah.
would have another 36 touches, 13 clearances.
Yeah, he's got to find a new club.
So he'll be finding a new
think.
club. One for the Black Books, I think. James Leake from the Giants. Like,
Yeah,
I know it's
heard
hard
about
to break into that side, but he's getting a lot of footy lately.
Yeah.
And yeah, Cam McKenzie, another one who was much loved by us probably
Pre-season.
and a lot of people, but
Yeah.
he's actually had kind of what
Horse got too good for him.
yeah,
That's the issue.
it's kind of sorry, I'm just saying he's finding a bit of touch, so hopefully it might be a bit of Mateus Philippou about him, where go back, play some good footy, find some touch, and bring him back in.
It's crazy that the Hawks actually have like other young players in the wings that aren't playing as well, so they're going to be fucking good again one day. It's annoying. Anyways, we'll wrap it up there. Anything you want to get around? Get around. What's your podcast? Front runner. Doing a few episodes here. Oh, I don't know if I told you this. I was in Melbourne. Oh, it's not that special. I was in Melbourne and I was just, you did a podcast on one of the race days, and he went to Adelaide, came to Adelaide for the weekend, and went to Morphettville, and I put him on your podcast, so he's going to listen to it.
Sweet.
Yeah. He likes just racing all over Australia, and was in likes Adelaide racing as well. So
Hell yeah.
Probably got that one extra
One more listener.
that
That might bump our numbers up quite significantly.
Yeah, he said he comes over to Adelaide quite a bit and goes to races. So yeah.
Hit me up.
Yeah. Anyway, get around us on @KeeperLeaguePod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. We're there. Sign up as a member if you want to support the podcast. If you sign up now, you get all the pre-season stuff. And again, I've got some cool new tools and putting my coding skills to newfound coding skills to practice with a few new tools and apps and stuff that'll be available on our website in the off season, which will be pretty fun. And then I think that's pretty much it. Like and subscribe and review, that sort of stuff. That helps us climb the
5
charts
stars,
as well.
baby.
5 stars. We used to really campaign hard for that, but I think we've kind of just settled into a groove now.
But it'd be 5 stars anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it would be. We're averaging like 4.9, I think.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, that's it for another week. Thanks, Kaes, for joining us.
Pleasure.
And we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.